From time to time, we are crushed. It is the crushing that makes who we are. The deeper your calling, the deeper the crushing. For we must die. That is in us must die, so that the new life can begin. Sometimes some things that should have killed you become the catalyst and agency through which you evolve to what you're meant to be. Many of us, especially those of my age and those slightly lower than my age, it wasn't easy. The beginnings were not easy. The schools we went to were far from the homes that we stayed. We had to walk on bare feet. Some lost their toenails. Some of them, when you look at their feet, they have black spots and you think they are tattoos. But it's because of walking. Life was difficult. We went through famines. You had to stay at school on an empty stomach. To staff going through our boarding schools. Our boarding schools, these days they complain that the life is tough in boarding schools, but it has never been. I don't think it was like what we were. It was difficult. There are no visitations. So you had to live on the posho and beans. And I don't know why they never gave us enough. They just smear the plate. With a few beans, you could count them. And a lot of water they called soup. And weevils floating on top. And would ask for more soup to fill the space because the food was not enough. The toughness of times, bring us to what we are. The fights, all whatever happened in our lives. And yet, today it's not the same. Life has changed. There are nearer schools. There are buses. If the parents can't drop, there are buses to do so, minibuses. Life looks to be simpler. But then there are also silent challenges that happen. Because the children we have today do not have the challenges that we had. They never went through the hunger we went through school. They may have not walked. They may have not looked after cattle. Because even if you want to look after cattle, there's no space now. Or if you do, you'll put on boots. In our days, there were no boots. They were your feet and the thorns. But our children now also have their own challenges. Or the new generation, the high tech that goes on, the bullying over the net. We went through school, there was a lot of bullying. But it ends there. They bully you, you cry, you get hardened because you are not the only one. Everybody who is when he comes to the school is bullied, is cajoled, is abused, is called names. But you go through. Today, it is personalized on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on Snapchat. They hit people so hard, causing depression amongst our children. Depression, anxiety, unfulfilled objectives, imaginations of things that are not there. We'd never had things they call promos, where people have to buy the best dresses and all that, and have to be driven in limos to school. They were not there. If your father could afford to buy the short and the shirt as uniform, which was your best even for Sunday, like a Sunday today, thank you. Like a Sunday today, you would put on your khaki shorts and your uniform shirt. That would be your best. But today it is not. There's plenty. But it doesn't mean that there are no silent issues that happen. Actually, they are more difficult than what we are. Our children and the new generation and the things that they go through are not the same like we went through, but they are there. They really hurt. They hurt inside. There's isolation. When we were growing up, the children belonged to the community. You would run all over the whole village. Some of us who were on hills, you'd go up and down the hill, and everybody, uncle, auntie, whatever you feel, which is not today. Today it's isolation. Today is the big walls around our homes we call for security. And not knowing that we're isolating ourselves and we're tortured by things that we go through. In our workplaces, sometimes you get isolated. Sometimes it becomes difficult. You are there, but you are not there. There's so much uncertainty. You don't know whether you have a job today or you will not have. You don't know whether you'll be on the payroll or not. Such are the challenges that some people face. But you know, the greatest people that are now great that we know of went through tough crushing. I hear stories, even the current president of Russia. If you read his background, Putin, it was not easy. So was Hitler. So was Mussolini. So is even our president. He also had it rough. He had to go through the bush to be whatever he is right now. And life, God has made it that those challenges that we go through are actually not meant to destroy us, but to make us hard, to make us stronger, to make us excel. I have a business friend whose mother passed on when he was 2 years. And of course, the father had to remarry. But he was a houseboy, almost like a houseboy. Every weekend, he washed heaps and heaps of clothes until sometimes his nails would bleed. And after a while, they took him to the worst boarding schools. But he went through them. But that hardness prepared him. Today, he owns over 30 dry cleaning shops in town. Because at a certain time, they realized that he was excelling in school. And therefore, they decided to pull him out of school. Because he was excelling more than the children of the current wife in the home. So they decided to pull him away from home because they didn't have a houseboy, they didn't have a shamba boy, somebody to take care of the home. So he stayed at home. And so later on, he ran away from home and he was living by washing other people's clothes. Set up a small Dobby shop. Later on, bought a washing machine. Later on, bought an ironing board. And today, he's a multimillionaire. He's among the people who are known to be rich in Kampala. Such are the hardships that we go through that really set out who we are. It's not the good times, okay? And sometimes we think that the current generation don't have such difficulty because they are provided, but theirs are more challenging. They are more challenging. Actually, the physical suffering is much easier because you see it. Somebody makes you suffer, somebody beats you up, but these that are hurting from inside are very deadly. That's why you see people just going the way as themselves because of the toughness of situations that they go through. The greatest part of us is down in our soul, and only pressure can bring it out. That pressure that you're pushed into, sometimes something that should have killed you become the catalyst and agency through which evolved what you are meant to be. Even Christ was born to die. When Peter said he was going to defend him, Christ commanded the devil that was in front of him to get behind him. And yet, when he was being tempted, being handed over, he welcomed Judas Iscariot. And he said, the one whom we are sharing the same plate is the one who's going to what? Because he had his destiny was known. Life crushes us time to time to reveal the true us. God is in the process. He's in the process than in the promise. Many times when we preachers preach, we talk about the promises. But let me tell you one thing, is that when you get a big promise, and you get something that you really feel is it, you know that there's hard work to get there. There's hard work before you become a CEO. There's hard work before you become a director. There's hard work before you become that great businessman who is known. Lots of failures. Goods are lost. They are burnt. They are stolen. Or they become stale. Sometimes you can have dead stock. You know, dead stock is stock of no value. You have so much piled up, but it is of no value. But in all, God is preparing you. He's preparing you for that goodness, that vision that you see of you running so many shops. You know that before that there are trials, because God is in the process more than in the promise. And he stands by us to lead us. He never forsakes us. That's why Psalm 23, verse 4 to 5, from the King James Version say, "Ye though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over." Notice that the Lord prepares our table in the midst of our enemies. In the midst of the troubles, he prepares your table so that the world can see that he's a mighty God. In Romans chapter 8, verse 17 to 19 says, "And since," this is from the Living Translation, "and since we are his children, we are his heirs. In fact, together with Christ, we are heirs of God's glory. But if we are to share his glory, we must also share his suffering." No shortcut. To be elevated, you also have to suffer like he did. But the good thing about